Good, good afternoon and welcome to the this planning committee on the Thursday, the 11th of March. We're joined by officers from Democratic Services, Legal Services and from the Planning Division. My first duty is to call a roll call out to tell everybody who is present. So I shall go along as they appear on my screen as opposed to alphabetical. So Councillor Coote, could you say you're present, please?
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Phillips.
Present.
Councillor Allen.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Pulfer.
Present.
Councillor DeBell.
Present.
Councillor Cartwright.
Present.
Councillor McNaughton.
Present.
Councillor Sweatman.
Present.
Councillor Eggleston.
Present.
And least but not least, last, Councillor Cogunner-White.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for an explanation of how these virtual meetings happen. So I'm going to ask my legal officer, Jen Bell, to give a brief explanation of why we're here.
Thank you. In accordance with regulations made by the government at the start of this pandemic, this meeting of the Planning Committee is being held virtually via remote video link. The usual procedural rules for debates apply. Members are in control of their microphones and will be called to speak by the chairman at his discretion. The vote on items 6 to 8 on the agenda will be a named vote, which I will conduct, and members should use the raised hand function to approve the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I will explain the public speaking role, how it happens. I will call members of the public who wish to speak, either for or against. You can switch your microphone on and your video on. You'll be given 3 minutes to state your case. And after 2.5 minutes, I will give you a 30-second warning that it's coming to an end. And after you said you finish your last sentence. And then can I ask you to switch your video off and the microphone off. Now, for the benefit of all those watching, you may see me occasionally lean to my right and speak into a different handset. I'm taking legal or planning advice, but I will mute myself on the screen. So if you see my lips move, it's not that I've gone mad. It's just I'm talking on a different system. Item 2 is to receive apologies for absence, and we've only got one, that's Councillor Walker, and we wish him and hope his operation yesterday was a successful one. And item 3 is to read declarations of interest.
Chairman, if I might just import there, yes, it was very successful, and he should be out of hospital in another 2 days.
Thank you, Councillor Coote. Item 3 is to receive declaration of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Does anybody wish to raise their hand?
Mr. Chairman, I think I should make a declaration of interest on particularly Oakwood, because I'm the Vice Chairman of the Town Council Planning Committee, and their evidence is mentioned in this item. I have not prejudged it, and I come with an open mind, but I feel that it's worth noting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think that's a very wise move, Councillor Pulfer. Thank you. And item 4 is to confirm the minutes of the meetings held on the 21st of January and the 18th of February. Now, there are 2 changes, which one I picked up and one Councillor Bell informed me. On page 3, Councillor Eggleston was present. He's named in the body of the report. And on page 15, Councillor Bell disappears from the top of the page, but he reappears at the bottom of the page. So with those 2 amendments, all members agree. Can you just show your normal way by giving me the yes or no in the reactions button, please? Whoops. If not, just tell me. Yeah, to answer the bell. Okay, I would assume that's all. Yes, that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I make just one point?
Hang on a second, Councillor DeBell. I've just taken advice a second.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we go into Councillor Pulfer and Councillor DeBell, I did write to every member at the beginning of this week, remind them of the obligations that you are to pay attention and not to have any off-camera conversations, and to give due respect to all members of the public, officers and members when they are actually in the debate. Thank you very much. Councillor de Bell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, not only do I disappear on page 15, but my vote is not recorded there. I actually voted against the first motion on DM 201516, along with Councillor Allen, Councillor Cartwright, Councillor Eggleston, Councillor Phillips and Councillor Swetman. So that will need to be amended. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor de Bell. Councillor Pulford, you did raise your electronic hand briefly.
By accident, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we've confirmed those minutes with those minutes changed, and Lucinda, I will, if you could use my electronic signature subject to those two additions to the minutes, please. Item 5 is to considering items I agree to take as urgent business. I have none, which brings us to the substantial part of why we're here. So can I ask Steve King, the officer who's going to be presenting this, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just before we get into the presentation, I'll just briefly run through the update sheet that's been circulated to members. You'll see on page 22, there's a bit missing under the recommendation, so it just needs to have the words added, subject to the conditions listed in Appendix A. On page 22, received a further letter from West Sussex Fire and Rescue Service requesting a condition regarding the provision of a fire hydrant. You'll see the response underneath that condition isn't necessary in planning terms to make the application acceptable because it's covered by building regulations. And as members know, planning conditions shouldn't be used to duplicate things that are covered by other legislation. There's been a letter of support received from the applicant that's been sent direct to the members of the planning committee. So I will assume you've all seen that, so I won't go through that. The further representation from the Haywards Heath Town Council, essentially reiterating their objection to the application. And just a typo in the first paragraph in the introduction on page 25. It should say 31 bedrooms rather than 34. So I'll just share the screen. And go through the application. So the application is at Oakwood, Amberley Close, Haywards Heath, and it seeks planning permission for the partial demolition of the southern wing of the property and the erection of an extension. The property is operated as a care home by Sussex Housing and Care, and you'll see that the proposal will provide an additional 31 new bedrooms, resulting in a total of 60 bedrooms at the site. So this is the application site outlined here where my cursor is. It's within the built-up area of Haywards Heath, and it's access from Amberley Close here, that then goes up to Bolnall Road, Wealdon Way, then Bolnall Road, and then up onto Butler's Green Road. To the north of the site are the gardens of the residential properties on Bolnall Road. To the northeast, you've got Hanover Court, which comprises 23 retirement apartments and one bungalow. To the southeast of the site are flats, 37 flats, Oakwood flats, that are also operated by Sussex Housing and Care. To the south, at a lower level, are the detached properties of Verneycroft, And then across, again, also a lower level to the west are the modern properties on Little Pithfield. So as I say, there's a fall in levels through the site from north to south. There's a pathway that runs down here from Bolnall Road down this way and links into the estate. The two listed buildings here outlined in red, referred to in the property in the committee report of Great Haywards Barn, where the cursor is there, and Great Haywards. The indications there are the tree preservation orders. So there's only one tree within the site that's covered by a tree preservation order. So this is the application site. As I say, it's accessed from the roundabout at the bottom of Amberley Close, and then you've got the access road into the site. So this is Oakwood Court itself at the northern end of the site, and then you've got the blocks of the Oakwood Court flats, fall in levels, as I say, from north down to south. So at the moment, this area is a landscaped garden area in the grounds of the site. Car parking is located to the north of the building and to the west here. So just in a bit more detail, this is the application site as it is at the moment. So this is the area here of partial demolition, and this is where the proposed extension would be located. So this slide shows the proposed site layout. So the application, as I say, proposed an extension on the southern side, proposes an additional 31 bedrooms. So with the associated changes in the building itself, that would result in a total of 60 bedrooms on the site, going up from the current total of 33 beds. So this is the footprint of the proposed addition on the southern side of the site. The details of that are set out on page 26 of the committee report. And internally, as we'll see, the proposal includes a laundry, a new plant room, a lounge and dining area, hairdressing salon and other staff facilities. So the extension measures around 41 metres in length, 17.5 metres in width, and it uses the change in levels. So it's partially over 3 stories with a lower ground floor, upper ground floor and a first floor. Externally, the elevations would be brick with a tiled roof, and you'd have an external amenity area located in this area. The proposal also shows additional car parking spaces in this area here. This is the preserved tree, only preserved tree on the site, and that's unaffected by the proposal. So these are the existing elevations of the site, existing north and south. So you can see that the fall in levels through the site. They're the existing east and west elevations. And what's proposed, to say, the extension on the southern end. So these are the proposed north and south elevations. So if you're at the bottom of the site looking upwards, this is the southern end of the extension. So you can see at that point, because of taking advantage of the levels, it's got the three floors at that end. Proposed east and west elevations. So again, this is the proposed extension. Again, you can see taking advantage of the change in levels through the site. And that's the other side looking back towards the flats within the site. So that's the east elevation at the bottom. Proposed floor plans. So there would be a lift within the site to link in the new extension to the existing building. And you've got the lounge and sort of amenity area for residents located here. External amenity area across here. That's the dimension that's referred to in the committee report. It's 15 meters from the edge of the external amenity area to the closest flat. And then you've got the bedrooms beginning. That's the upper ground floor plan that shows the bedrooms on this side, staff facilities across here, and then at the first floor plan, bedrooms on the western side, and these are staff facilities on this side of facing the flats. This slide shows sections through the site to illustrate the potential impact on light from the proposed extension on the existing flats to the east. So you can see this is a 25-degree line through the site. You can see that the extension has been done in a manner so that it wouldn't impact on light levels that are received by the existing flats across to the east. So that's what that section is showing. This is a tree retention plan. I've put the note at the top just so you're aware. This is showing the footprint of the building as it was originally proposed. You'll see from the committee report that during the course of the application, the footprint of the building has been reduced in size. So this plan, in terms of the footprint of the extension, still shows the originally proposed rather than what's before the committee today. But it is useful to show the trees that would be removed because they're still the same. And it's these trees that are highlighted here in this area that would be removed. And that's detailed in the committee report. Some 3D images that I hope are helpful in explaining the scheme in a bit more detail. So this is the existing building here. So this is the area, the wing that would be, the part that would be demolished and then replaced. So this is the extension shown here. These are the existing flats to the east of the site. That's just another view. So that's the flats to the east, and this is the proposed extension here. This is within the site viewing the proposed extension, and this is in effect looking down from the west. So again, this is the extension, and those are the proposed flats. So the existing flats within the site. So what I've got here is a series of photographs that show the site. So these are taken from within the existing landscaped area of the site, looking up. So this is where part of the existing building would be demolished. This is from in the existing garden landscaped areas looking across. So again, it's this little section that would be demolished and then the extension coming across here. This is at the back of the site, or the western side. So this is the preserved tree. I say the only preserved tree on the site that's unaffected. So that's the car parking area at the back. This is within the landscaped area, again looking back up at the existing main part of the building, the care home. It's a more panoramic view, hence it's got a slight goldfish distortion on it, but that's taken from within the landscaped area looking up at the whole of the existing site, and that's the neighbouring flats to the east. Various views of the neighbouring flats to the east. So this one is taken from the existing terrace, looking across to the east, and again that's looking from the site down to the existing landscaped area, and you can see the flats across to the east. That's another view of the flats to the east, and this is taken right from the western side of the site. So this is the area where the proposed extension would be, where the cursor is. Just some views taken of the existing landscape garden. So this is from the southern end, looking back up to the site. So these are the trees and vegetation that would be removed in the existing landscaped area for the proposed development. And views of the existing access. So this is within the site. So this is the private road within the site. This area here is marked as visitor spaces. So that's also used for car parking. This is at the back of the existing building. So this is the northern end of the site. So you can see it's car parking to the rear. This is taken at the bottom of Amberley Close. So that's the roundabout at the bottom, and that's the access into the site in here. And these are some views along Amberley Close, and you'll see double yellow lines at the top end near the junction, and then it's single yellow lines down the bottom. I think parking's restricted for an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. You can see, I think I took these photos last Thursday on bin collection day, so you can see that even with a car park there, the refuse lorry had no trouble getting past and accessing the site. So if I just go back to the layout plan, the issues are as set out in the report, so I won't go through them in huge detail, but I think it's useful to highlight the main things. The principle of the development, that's dealt with on page 30 of the committee report. You'll see the proposal, it's in the built-up area of Haywards Heath, where policy DP6 applies in the district plan. And officers consider the principle of development is acceptable. Design is dealt with on page 30 of the report. The design has been amended quite significantly during the course of the application. So it's increased the proportion of open space around the building and reduced the footprint of what's proposed. And the design has been arrived at to take advantage of the levels in the site and make good use of that. And you'll see now that the council's urban designer is satisfied with the proposal, and his comments are on page 31 within the committee report. In terms of the impact on the listed buildings of Great Haywards and Great Haywards Barn, they're both Grade 2 listed. That's dealt with on page 32 of the report. But because of the buildings that are in between the existing flats, we don't think there's any impact at all on their setting. In terms of access, that's an important issue with the application. That's dealt with on page 34 of the committee report. You'll see that there's currently 29 car parking spaces, and the proposal will result in a total of 50 on the site, 4 of which would be disabled spaces, and 8 electric vehicle charging points and 8 cycle parking spaces. You'll see that the additional trip generation is calculated as being 20 trips, and the Highway Authority has no objection to the application. And I'm sure members are fully aware now of the test in policy DP21 in relation to impacts on the highway network, and that's that it shouldn't cause a severe impact, and that reflects the test in the MPPF. So I don't think there's any issue that there would be any severe impact on the highway network from this proposal. Amberley Close, as we saw from the photographs, it's a relatively wide road. There's no visibility issues there, and it's obviously a cul-de-sac, so it's not heavily trafficked. And as we saw from the photographs, the refuse lorry, which is clearly a wide vehicle, had no trouble accessing the site, even with a car parked. So I don't think there's any grounds to resist the application in relation to highway safety matters. I know there have been concerns raised in relation to the construction, but those matters would be and can be dealt with by a construction management plan, and that wouldn't be a reason to resist the application. A key issue on the application is clearly the impact on neighbouring amenities, and that's dealt with on page 35 onwards of the committee report. The main impacts are likely to be on the Oakwood flats that are also within the applicant's ownership, that are to the southeast of the site. And again, I'm sure members are aware that the test in policy DP6 in relation to neighbour amenity is whether there is a significant harm caused. At the closest point, so corner to the edge here, the extension will be 16 metres from the Oakwood flats, and the way that it's been angled and the rooms that are proposed on the various floors, it's your officer's view, for the reasons that are in the report, that there wouldn't be a significant harm caused to the amenities of these existing occupiers. In terms of the impact on the neighbouring properties to the south and the west, I think it's some 31 metres down to the south of Fernycroft, and around 30 metres across to the west to the properties on Little Pithfield. So again, for the reasons in the committee report, officers don't feel that there's any significant harm caused to the amenities of those properties. The other main issues, drainage, is dealt with on page 37. Essentially, it's proposed for surface water to drain to the existing pond to the east, and then that drains off to an existing water course to the south. And it's proposed that the foul will connect into the existing foul drainage network that serves the flats. And you'll see from the report that there's no objections from either Southern Water, the West Sussex County Council as the lead local flood authority, or the council's drainage engineer. Biodiversity, that's dealt with on page 37. But in summary, the council's ecological consultant has no objections to the proposal. And the trees, I've highlighted that the trees that would be removed on the previous plan, that's dealt with on page 38 of the committee report. I think it's worth pointing out that aside from this tree here, none of the other trees are protected within the site. They're not preserved and wouldn't be worthy of a tree preservation order. It's also proposed that there would be some additional landscape planting around the boundaries of the site to make up for the trees that would need to be removed for the development. And I think some concerns have been raised about the impact on trees on the southern boundary of the site. But again, it's important to note that the council's tree officer has assessed the application and has no objection. And the proposed extension is outside of the root protection areas of the retained trees. So there's no objection from her in relation to that. So in summary, so the proposal is to provide 31 new bedrooms. So you'd end up with a total of 60 bedrooms on the site. And you'll end up with 50 car parking spaces to serve that. The main impacts within the site are on the existing occupiers of the flats to the east, but for the reasons that we've highlighted in the report, we don't consider there would be significant harm. There would be obviously clear benefits from the scheme in that there will be a significant enhancement to the existing facilities within the site. You've got the provision of the additional bed spaces there, for which there is a clear need with the ageing population. You've got the additional employment benefits of a further 9 staff being employed on the site, and the existing landscaping around the site can be improved and enhanced as part of the application. You'll see that there's no objection from any of the technical consultees, and for all those reasons, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Keane. Right, members and members of the public, you might have noticed Councillor Co-Gunner White's camera flickering in and out of, so we could see her, then we couldn't, then we could see her. She has contacted me and said she's got connectivity problems with her broadband where she is. So I've told her that instead of flickering in and out, if she goes out too many times, she won't be able to take a vote. And I decided that it would be best if she actually didn't take part today until she can sort out her Wi-Fi connections. So I'm going to ask the first public speaker. It's Lindsay. I've got down as Lindsay Ratcliffe, but we know her. That's her maiden name. So, Ms. Ratcliffe, could you unmute and switch your camera back on again, please? Video camera.
It says I'm unable to start the camera. Coast.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second.
Here we are.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, I can see you. Right, and we can hear you. Right, your 3 minutes will start from the moment you start to speak. Thank you very much.
We speak on behalf of the residents of Thornycroft and Little Pithfield that have submitted letters of objection to this planning application. We're strongly opposed for the following reasons. Firstly, the adverse impact on residential amenity to the residents of Thornycroft. The proposed extension will be a 3-storey building, which is 10.4 metres in height. Thornycroft sits immediately to the south of the site and is at least 4 metres below its ground level. The extension would therefore tower over the properties at 46 to 50 Thornycroft in particular, as it would be at least 14.4 metres in height from the ground level of Thornycroft. It would be the equivalent of a 4 or 5-storey building bearing down on these properties and block a significant amount of sunlight and daylight, which is exacerbated due to the close proximity of the development to the boundaries of these properties, being only 28 metres, and also the orientation of the properties. The amendments made to reduce the footprint are marginal, and the properties at Thornycroft would be severely overshadowed and overlooked, and they would lose all privacy. The extension would be higher than many of the trees that separate the boundaries, and many of these trees are deciduous. As a result, the natural screening that they create is only enjoyed during spring and summer, and the daylight afforded during autumn and winter would be blocked by the extension. Each of the properties at 42 to 50 Thornycroft would have their outlook significantly altered, with the character of their setting considerably harmed. The proposal overdevelops the site, and we're concerned about its size and scale, as well as the likely additional noise and light pollution that doubling of its capacity will cause. The planning officer did not attend Thornycroft or consider the application from the perspective of the residents of Thornycroft or Little Pithfield. The report only really deals with the impact on the residents of the Oakwood Flats. The proposal contravenes policy DP26 of District Plan, as it will cause significant harm to the amenities of the residents of Thornycroft, taking into account the impact on privacy, outlook, daylight, sunlight, noise, air and light pollution. As the committee cannot conduct a site visit, a number of photographs from the perspective of Thornycroft and a marked up aerial view of the existing site were sent to the committee by email to demonstrate its proximity to Thornycroft and the detrimental impact it will have on residential amenity. Secondly, loss of trees and ecological habitat. Thornycroft and Little Pithfield are in the tall trees area of Bolnell Village. It's called tall trees because of the mature and established trees to the south and west of the proposed development. Again, in contravention of policy DP26 of the District Plan, the proposal threatens trees that contribute to the character of the area and breaches policy DP37 as it threatens ancient woodland and veteran trees in particular. The report considers the trees that to be removed, but doesn't consider the risks to the 10 large oak trees on the boundary of Thornycroft in any detail. 2 of these are very large and very ancient. The roots of these trees will undoubtedly be put at risk of damage from the building works, and we're concerned that this could kill the trees and or cause them to become unstable, particularly due to the gradient of the land which runs downhill towards the properties in front.
Thank you. Can you conclude in one sentence, please?
If these trees fall down as a risk of any instability, they will crush the properties at 48 to 50 Thornycroft, and the risk posed by the building works is dangerous as a result. We've applied for tree preservation.
I'm going to have to stop you. Allowed you an extra 15 seconds.
I'm done anyway.
Thank you. I'd like to call. Can you now switch off your video, please, and mute your microphone, please? I now like to, and please forgive me if I do butcher your name, Ozkan Turguluto.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chairman. Ozkan
Thank you.
Turguluto.
Your time will start from the moment you start speaking.
Thank you. The area between Thornycroft and the proposed development is a woodland buffer zone and a wildlife corridor, and the area to the west of the woodland is a bridleway. The trees and the woodland is in these areas provide screening, natural drainage and wildlife habitat and are an important feature of Bono Village. We are concerned about the loss of habitat and the impact of the proposed development on the woodland ecosystem. The ecology reports obtained in support of the applications are now dated, and we would welcome fresh ecological surveys. The flood risk. The area surrounding Bono Village has very high levels of groundwater, in some areas as much as 60 centimeters or 2 feet from the surface level. Under the winter and autumn rain conditions, most gardens get extremely saturated with surface water, and the only amenity to the ditch is a ditch between Oakwood and the Little Pitfield Road runs full bore during most rainy days. Owing to the gradient of the existing Oakwood site falling towards Thornycroft by 4 meters and tall trees by 1.5 to 2 meters, most of the current unsoaked surface water runs into the ditch through existing French drains and natural soakage. However, the retention of the soakage takes significant time, and as a result of those areas are almost always saturated with groundwater. The proposed extension to the Oakwood Court reduces permeable surfaces in the region of 1,200 square meters or 13,000 square feet. This is replaced with buildings and tarmac Adam car parking, which exacerbates the collected surface water in normal and flash flood conditions. The proposals are indicating sustainable drainage systems on the basis that ground is not saturated with the groundwater. By close look at the all drainage engineer's assessment, these are done by desktop studies. Clearly, there was no site investigations, boreholes or piezometers installed on site to monitor the groundwater conditions. The proposed solutions are flawed, and the planning application contravenes policy DP41 of the district plan. If the planning permission is granted, the construction site will be constantly flooded, groundwater levels will rise permanently, damaging tree roots, and once the construction is completed, downstream properties will be flooded regularly. It will also cause permanent environmental damage to the surrounding area, as the proposed car park will be flooding with hydrocarbons and oil residue from the parked cars into the nearby ditch, which will trigger Environment Agency prosecution.
30 seconds.
Sure. Owing to groundwater rise, wildlife surrounding area that will be impacted irreversibly. The only sustainable solution to the problem is either increasing the current pond capacity reinforced by a duty standby pumping station to the pump surface water into the nearest trunk sewer, or Cookfield sewage treatment works. This solution is expensive, but the only viable solution, hence it has not been mentioned in the proposals. If the planning permission is granted by this significant loss of permeable surface, it will impact...
Can you conclude in one sentence, please?
Sure. By having experience of 22 years working with Southern Water and Thames Water, the flood risk will be increased significantly, and the proposals don't address that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again, could you switch your microphone and video off, please? I'd now like to call Andrew Wilson, please. Could you unmute yourself? And there you are. Can you unmute yourself? Because you're still muted at this point in time. You are now. Okay. So as soon as you wish to start speaking, your 3 minutes will start.
Thank you. Planning Officer's report outlines 28 objection letters, but no detailed evidential rebuttal. Haywards Heath Council strongly objects, highlighting overdevelopment, overbearing, unneighbourly, detrimental to the amenities of existing residents. Contrary to Neighbourhood Plan E9, E13, therefore DP26 in District Plan. Also raising further concerns over loss of trees, detriment to visual amenity, as well as impact on traffic flow parking. Mims Davis objects to the application on similar grounds. Neighbourhood Plan E11 clearly stipulates assessment of views from and to the development. No evidence that this has been carried out. Green woodland screen for Thornycroft residents is endangered, which will change the entire character of the zone. No artist's impressions have been created for a before and after view for Thornycroft residents. Reduction of green space implies significant detriment and harm caused by construction of multi-storey extension. E13 is crystal clear. The amount of land used for garden amenity space should be commensurate with type of dwellings, character of area, and of appropriate quality, having regard to topography, shadowing from buildings and landscape, features and privacy. To deprive existing Oakwood flats and care home residents of so much of the environment to which they are accustomed and entitled is not in line with this, since the amount of green space per resident is reduced by doubling the number of residents while removing the significant green space at the same time. H9 requires any extension to take into account effects on privacy, daylight, sunlight, and the outlook of adjoining residents. The applicants have not been presented any evidence that this has been done for the residents of Fernycroft or Little Pithfield. Like tall trees, Oakwood is named Oakwood precisely because of the beautiful woodland character which the Friends of Ashenground and Bolnor Woods protect. If the pandemic has taught us something, it's the importance of the green spaces around us when we are trapped in our homes during lockdown. The traditional concept of a commuter town like Haywards Heath is undergoing major change, with far more residents set to work from home more frequently, even when the pandemic is over. Character and setting of the home and garden environment for both the working and the retired population are therefore more crucial than ever before. Neither the Mid-Sussex Infrastructure Delivery Plan nor District Plan made adequate strategic commitments to assessing the true care and nursing home needs of the area. Per the District Plan, closure of a care home would be opposed unless satisfactory alternative comparable provision is available. Applying the same principle, consideration should be given to opposing care home construction where there is already an adequate supply in a small area. DP30 states housing needs of single and two-person households will account for 70% of housing requirements, expecting many will be aged over 75. It does not contemplate creating a disproportionately high concentration in any single town, which changes
30 seconds
of an area. Maintaining individual character of parts of Haywards Heath is a town council priority. No provision has been made for increased healthcare burden. Increasing the number of care home residents coming from outside of Haywards Heath cannot be sustained without proportional increases in GP surgeries, hospice facilities and hospital beds. Extra care home beds come with extra strains on local health infrastructure. Haywards Heath GP surgeries are at breaking point, and Dolphin's practice closest to the epicentre has not been accepting new patients. Hospices whose trained professionals visit homes to administer pain management are also put under strain.
Thank you. Can you just conclude in one sentence, please?
Princess Royal has not been expanded and will be subject to ever increasing demands. A frail residence addition put on Haywards Heath health infrastructure adversely affects town residents of all ages in an unsustainable way.
Okay, thank you very much. You got your 15 seconds as I gave everybody else. Thank you. Can you switch off your microphone?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to call Hugh James. He's speaking in favour. He's from ECE Planning. So Mr. James, that's you down there. Right, could you unmute yourself, please? And your 30 seconds will start. Sorry, 30 seconds. 3 minutes will start from when the moment you start talking. Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Hugh James from ECE Planning. The applicant, Sussex Housing and Care, are a local, not-for-profit housing association whose objectives are to provide more affordable yet high-quality care for elderly people, which they've been doing since 1946. These proposals are inherently sustainable, meeting the essential need to extend and improve an existing facility within Haywards Heath, within its own grounds, to provide better standards of care and more cost-effective service to residents, and to ensure a viable future. Having been consulted upon through 3 pre-applications and over the last 8 months of this application, the scheme is of high architectural quality in terms of scale, form and materials. It's been reduced in size and is supported by the urban design and planning officers. In terms of amenity, whilst there will be some change, through its orientation to avoid facing windows, first floor setback and overall reduction in scale, the extension is sensitive to the outlook, privacy and light of nearby residents and Oakwood flats, as evidenced in the extensive documentation provided. There's no discernible impact on properties beyond the site, although concerns about trees, ecology and drainage are very much noted. As mentioned, the sole objective is to improve the quantum and quality of care through 31 new bedrooms for the elderly. Any lower number of bedrooms than this is simply not viable, and no improvements would take place at all. Benefits will include 9 new jobs, additional communal lounge and dining spaces, a lift between old and new to allow residents level access to all floors, external improvements including a sensory garden and a new terraced area to improve the safety and the use of the still extensive areas of gardens and for all residents, not just the more ambulant. New trees and shrubs that more than offset the few trees removed and maintains and enhances the verdant character of the gardens with a range of ecological and sensory improvements. 50 parking spaces overall, including disabled and electric charging points, with no material impacts on the highway network as found by West Sussex. The comments from local residents have been carefully noted, with many relating to construction, concerns shared by the applicant, who will also need to continue to care for the residents 24/7 throughout the build and are committed to ensuring that the amenity of neighbours is protected. A construction management plan will ensure that traffic, parking, noise during construction is strictly controlled and agreed prior to commencement. In conclusion, the proposals are essential to meet current care needs and to ensure a viable future for the home. The result of extensive consultation with residents, the Town Council and the District Council, and fully compliant with planning policy in all regards. We respectfully request that members support the improvement of care at this facility and approve the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I do apologise. I seem to have some fun at my end. I can hear everybody, but I don't know if you can. Anybody see me?
I can see you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I do not know what's gone wrong.
I can see you, Mr. Chairman.
I can see you, Chairman.
Thank you. It's just had a bit. Ah, now you're back again. Thank you. I heard everything, so please don't think I didn't hear everything. I did hear everything. Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. Can I call? You're back on the screen again. Can I call Tracy Evans, please, to unmute and switch on the video, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Hugh's already outlined what makes us different from many other care providers, where our business isn't driven by profits and any financial surpluses are reinvested to deliver low cost and affordable housing and care for local people. Critically, this means that our fees are significantly lower than many local care homes in mid-Sussex. We pay the real living wage and we have a stable workforce. A third of our Haywards Heath staff have been with us for over 7 years. We work where we live. Our residents and their families are from the mid-Sussex area and our staff are local. We need to build this extension for 2 reasons. Firstly, smaller homes are more challenging to run financially. Oakwood Court was built in the 1980s and has 33 bedrooms. New viable care homes typically provide between 60 and 70 bedrooms with a variety of communal spaces to provide for a less institutionalised layout. Secondly, we need to ensure that Oakwood Court is fit for the future in terms of infection control and gives us the layout that assists with not only providing a warm and caring environment, but a safe environment to help us deal with any future virus outbreaks. Without doubt, many care home providers have been financially hit by the pandemic and will struggle to survive due to loss of income and additional costs. And this in turn will result in a national lack of supply of care home beds. Just within our organisation, we are facing a deficit this year of £385,000. We're not alone in facing that sort of situation as a care provider. We've got a planned deficit budget next year and we can weather this storm, but it has been challenging and it will impact on other care providers. The proposals deliver benefits not just for residents and staff at our care home, but also for the residents in our 53 sheltered housing flats at Oakwood Flats. We held 3 separate consultation sessions in 2019 and a consultation meeting in February 2020 focusing on the landscaping. And we've incorporated many suggestions from residents such as wildflower areas, seating, planters on the patios into our plans. I know the site well. I know it from the time when I worked in Haywards Heath in an entirely different role. In the winter, for those of you that don't know it, it's a complete mud bath in parts of the site. And many of our residents have said that parts of the site are unusable. And certainly the plans that we're putting in place will make it much more accessible. And although there will be a smaller open area, a significant amount of amenity space is still retained and it will be, as I say, much more usable, accessible and level with the courtyard garden and the sensory stroll areas. Extending Oakwood Court will enable us to provide much needed additional
30 seconds to go.
Affordable, safe residential care fit for the future in Haywards Heath. The design makes better use of the existing building and the plans for the extension have been amended to take on board issues raised by local residents and the council's design officer. We feel it now achieves the right balance in terms of impact on neighbours and are pleased to see that it's been strongly recommended for approval by council officers. Therefore, we respectfully request that this application should be approved and planning permission should be granted for this important proposal.
Thank you very much. Dead on 3 minutes. Thank you very much. Right, I'm now going to call the 2 ward councillors. I'll do in the order that they appear on my sheet. And I can't call Councillor Ruth Demir. Now, members will be aware that we don't time ward councillors, but obviously we don't want them to outlive their usefulness, shall we say. So Councillor Demir, you're not under any pressure for time, but please bear in mind, it's quite a long agenda today.
No, I'll be very, very quick. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members, for letting me speak today. I do hear what Sussex Housing CEO and the gentleman whose name I've forgotten have said, but I, as a ward councillor for Lucastes, have to speak for all my residents and represent them. Having said that, I am not an expert or knowledgeable surveyor or planner. However, I must wholeheartedly support my residents' concerns regarding, because of the level of the ground, the height of this new extension, which having walked via to have a look on my daily exercise, I feel will invade, in commas, the houses in Ferny Croft. And I'm afraid, fear for the health of those old established trees whose roots may be damaged in the construction. I know that they're not protected, but that's not a very good reason for just letting them die. And whatever you plant, they're not going to take the place of well-established trees. My other concern, although I hear what's being said, is this access from Amberley Close, which is a quiet residential area with that tiny little roundabout, if any of you have ever driven round there. And I do fear when emergency vehicles, in plural, have to go rushing up there, not to mention the parking limitation and the flows of traffic to what will be possibly 100 homes. That's it, Mr. Chairman, well within the 3 minutes.
Oh, you weren't timed, Councillor Demir. Thank you very much. Councillor Knight, could you unmute and put your video on, please?
Yeah, I can't turn the video on. Is the officer able to enable that for me, please?
Hang on a second.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I am Ward Councillor for Lucastes, and this proposed development sits in my ward. First, I would like to thank the residents in Oakwood and Fernycroft for their diligence and professionalism in their objections. They have understood the need to keep to planning grounds, although I do understand why emotions might run high. I have had opportunity to walk around the Bolnorth side of the development to look at the proposed site, understand the elevations and impact. If you have been able to visit the site, you will fully understand my following objections to this application. It is quite clear to me and Councillor Demir that this proposed development with its proposed siting and elevations will significantly dominate the landscape and will have a profound impact on the residents in Fernycroft. I'm not sure if officers were able to see the site from the Bolnorth perspective. I noticed that no light projections have been performed from there, so I'm not sure if we've given full due diligence to the residents of Fernycroft. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, my objections on planning grounds are it's out of keeping with the area. This will be a 3-storey building dominating, backing closely onto residential property. This residential area is just normal housing. There'll be loss of privacy and it'll be overbearing to existing residents. Clearly, occupants of the proposed development will be able to stare into the bedrooms and back gardens of the Fernycroft houses. There will be loss of light significantly impacting residents. And I raised the other concerns around the vehicle, emergency vehicle from the open side, the loss of trees and wildlife, and the gentleman's worries about the drainage in the area. Constituencies have highlighted a number of concerns to the local MP, and these were consolidated and submitted on their behalf. Much of this consolidation has similar concerns and objections to mine. Members, I do hope you're able to reach the same conclusions as me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Before we go to a debate, Mr. King, you've heard quite a lot of information there. Do you wish to come back on any of it before we go to debate?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. There was just one thing I wanted to clarify before members got into the debate. There is no ancient woodland on the site or on the boundaries of the site. The nearest ancient woodland is to the southwest of the site, beyond the new properties at Bolnor on Pithifield. So, as I say, there is no ancient woodland on the site. There's one preserved tree that we've seen in the photographs, and in relation to the boundary trees, the applicant's supporting information shows that the proposed extension wouldn't be within the root protection areas of those trees on the boundary, and the council's tree officer has assessed that information and is content that that's accurate. So for those reasons, officers don't consider that there is a threat to the trees on the boundaries of the site. But I thought I'd just clarify that point on the ancient woodland before you start, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. King. Wise words as always. As is my wont, I would, as we've got no local ward members because they've just been speaking, I'm going to ask Councillor Pulfer as the only representative on this committee from Haywards Heath.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. As with all planning applications these days, we do see the provision for cycle stores, and I think it's very pleasant to see that our elderly residents could well be freewheeling all the way down to Sainsbury's to Costa Coffee down there, and then to come back. And I think that's excellent and reflects the health of the nation. The other thing I'd just like to comment on is on the trees, and if the tree officer has said that is okay, I would support that because I know the tree officer is absolutely passionate about trees wherever they are. So I think we could probably allay that fear. There has been made mention of a construction management thing, and I really would advocate that if this planning application goes through, that there is judicious management of this, because so often there is a management plan, but all the contractors park on the local road, and that is it for 18 months or 2 years, including the offloading of heavy equipment. And I would recommend to the planning officers that provision is made on site, which will be difficult, but engineers are imaginative people, and they can manage it if they put their minds to it. The thing that I do have to come to, Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to repeat any of the other planning numbers and this, that, and the other, but the topography of the land really does not suit such a tall building of such height. And I draw attention to DG 32 and 39, and it's the topography which is the problem. And it would be nice if whilst I think the planning application in essence is to be welcomed, it's got jobs, and it's got a number of good things, but if the rooms and the heights of those ridges could be redesigned so that they didn't have such an overbearing situation on to the Fernycroft residences. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Pulfer. Councillor de Bell, please.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'm wanting to speak, but I think you'll find that Councillor Coote was before me.
It's my prerogative. He's Vice Chairman, he can wait a second.
Roger, thank you very much indeed. No, I was looking at the fact that it's actually an increased number of beds. I was looking at the car parking, increased number of beds, so increased number of visitors, but as far as I can see, they're actually decreasing the number of car parking spaces for the visitors. And I think, as we all know, when you're actually visiting relatives in care homes, it can be quite a problem finding a car parking space. So I'm sure it looks to me as though the Highway Authority have done once again a tabletop assessment on this, and this is probably during the pandemic when traffic is slightly reduced. And I noticed that people are saying that the overspill does tend to go onto the roads outside, which causes blockage on the roundabout, people getting in. So if Mr. King could just clarify, if I'm right in saying increased number of beds, increased number of visitors related, but reduced number of car parking spaces. The other thing is, I know it's not really our concern, well, it is our concern, but bigger doesn't always mean better. And increasing number of people, of elderly people in a care home carries a greater risk of people not being noticed. But as I say, that is not a planning concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor DeVoe. Not wishing to disagree with you, but if you go to page 27, third paragraph, it says currently there are 29 parking spaces used by staff and visitors to Oakwood Court and residents of Oakwood Flats. The new proposal replacement of 6 existing places with 4 disabled. So they're going to remove 6, put 4 disabled spaces in, but there is provision of an additional 20 new spaces, bringing it up to 50. Have you seen that?
I stand corrected, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much indeed.
That's not a problem. That's not a problem. Councillor Coote, I will not miss you out again. Sorry.
Chairman, as you are aware, because I phoned you yesterday when I visited the site, I took quite a long time to look around and generally take on board the situation. I have listened intently to the 3 objectors, but I have to say that I don't find anything within what they have said or anything that I could think of where we could refuse this and we could take it. If we were taken to appeal, we would most certainly, in my experience, which is of some many years, we would most certainly lose. And so therefore, I would be happy to propose as recommended.
Okay, thank you. But we do have other speakers, so I'm going to call Councillor Eggleston.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I mean, I think in terms of the application, in terms of parking and traffic, I don't, I think the application addresses those issues well. I mean, this is a care home, so whilst there will be visitors, it's not as though we're allocating car parking spaces for the residents. So you would hope that the 50 odd car parking spaces wouldn't all be packed in at the same time, and the road structure accommodates exit and entrance into the site as it stands. It's really it's encouraging to hear from the applicants that they're running a not-for-profit organisation, but that doesn't weigh in the judgment of the planning application. It's just very refreshing to see that that care is managed on that basis. I do, however, have 2 concerns, and I think one in DP 26 on the basis that this extension basically doubles the size of the building, and I understand the economics of that, but again, that's not a material consideration. It doubles the size, so concerned whether we really are complying with DP 26 in the sense of creating a sense of place while addressing the character and scale of the surrounding buildings and landscape. And I think twice the size might be stretching the policy somewhat. And then on DP 41 with flood risk and drainage, I mean, I was very impressed by the representation made by the gentleman opposing the application. And I think if you are increasing the hard footprint of a site and reducing the landscaping area, and we've heard already that it's a site that in wet weather is a boggy field, I find it difficult, and I haven't seen enough in the report to give me the comfort that that extension, deals with the issue of, the lack of drainage on that site. And I fear that an extension of this size could actually make matters worse. So as it currently stands, I'm not in the yes column.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Chairman. I do wonder whether the proposal, I appreciate it's actually been scaled back from the original plans, but I do wonder whether we're getting to the point of it being overdevelopment of the site. But there is one contradiction in the report that I wonder if we could have clarified. The planning officer says that it complies with E9 of the neighbourhood plan, whereas the town council claim that it is contrary to E9 of the plan. And I wondered if anyone could actually tell us what that E9 states as to why there should be a conflict there.
Okay, that is a convenient break then before I ask the next two members, because I think Mr. King wants to come back on a couple of other items, but if you can answer that one first, that'd be excellent, Mr. King.
Just unmute myself. I'll just find E9. Just bear with me. Yeah, so E9 is essentially the neighbourhood plan policy relating to how proposals sit in their context and landscape, etc. And it has a whole series of criteria. Policy DP 26 in the district plan is the more up-to-date version of a policy that's designed to achieve similar aims. Clearly, with any of these types of policies, it comes down to a planning judgment as to whether the application is meeting those particular criteria, and whether something is well designed, whether something does fit in appropriately, whether something is trying to get too much onto the site, etc. There are cases of particular layouts that I think everyone would agree are sound layouts and well designed. I'm talking about perimeter block layouts rather than a series of cul-de-sacs that you can't navigate easily through, etc. But essentially, it comes down to a matter of judgment as to whether policies like that are complied with. And you'll see from the committee report on this one that there has been some extensive negotiation with the applicants and officers, in particular your urban designer, to end up with a scheme that officers do consider fits in properly onto the site. I think, as all members will know, that the urban designer does look very critically at all of these types of schemes and challenges developers, and to get to a position where he is supportive of the scheme. I think we are comfortable that it does fit in successfully on the site. I think if I perhaps share the screen again as I talk to this. So this is the proposed extension, and you've got to remember that you've got an existing wing here, so it's partial demolition as well. So this is the main extension in terms of new footprint, and you've still got a good level of amenity space around the whole of the flatted complex. And as we've heard from the applicants, and it's set out in the report, it is proposed to improve this area in terms of its actual usability. So I think we're content that it fits in satisfactorily to the site, and the elevations are well designed to break down the scale of the building that's referred to in the committee report. And obviously it is within the built up area, and the clear government guidance is to use sites efficiently where they are well located. So I think it ticks all of those boxes. I think one of the concerns related to the drainage of the site, in terms of surface water, clearly the amount of water that falls onto the site will remain the same whether if this extension is approved or not. I think it's all about, in terms of surface water drainage, the speed that water then flows off the site, and the intention is for underground storage within the site, and then the water leaves the site at a regulated rate to join the existing pond to the east of the site up here. And again, the council's drainage engineer is content that in principle that is a satisfactory way to drain the site, and there won't be flooding caused either on the site or off the site as a result of this, and that the technical details of that can be dealt with by a planning condition. A number of concerns been raised regarding the impact on the properties to the south of the site, but as I think I've mentioned in the presentation, there's quite a substantial distance from the proposed edge of the extension down to the properties at Fernycroft. I think it's 31 metres at the closest point, and obviously the application site is to the north, so that the sun will be coming round from the east and round this way. So I don't think that the orientation combined with the existing sort of strong tree screen will mean that this proposal has an adverse impact on the properties to the south in relation to light or being overbearing. I think those were the main points that I wanted to highlight at this point, Chairman. Just
thank you,
screen.
Mr. King. Yep, thank you. Councillor Sweatman.
Thank you, Chairman. I think Mr. King's just answered some of my questions. I was very concerned for the residents at Fernycroft to have, which I consider the building is fairly overbearing. And, you know, with the leaves off the trees in the winter and the low winter sun, that could actually reduce their light levels. But, and I agree, it doesn't seem to agree with some of the policies in DP 26. But as we all know, an application is not decided on one particular policy, it's a development plan as a whole. So although I sympathise with the residents, I really do. But I don't see where we got anywhere to go with this one other than to approve it. But thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Sweatman. Councillor McNaughton, your wise words, please, sir.
I don't know about wise words, but I have in the past visited this site, so I am aware of it. I was concerned that people were talking about the loss of light when the building is to the north, and I'm just glad that Mr. King has rectified that. I also feel that the new build is still a considerable distance from the boundaries, which affect other houses. They're actually further away than the existing flats to Fernycroft. And if you consider the distance of somewhere between, and I don't know the exact measurement, but somewhere between what one of the speakers says was 28 metres to 31 metres. Well, 28 metres is a massive distance in the built-up area boundary to have a gap between houses. So I really can't see, even a 3-storey building is going to overpower those houses there. 30 metres, 29 metres, if you want to take the average, is well above what would be expected in ordinary housing developments. So I don't see the problem with that, but it is the economic, and it's the best use of the land. This is a nursing home in the built-up area boundary where it should be. It still leaves a considerable amount of land, not as much as maybe some people would want, but I would have thought for a nursing home, I know lots of nursing homes, and some certainly in Burgess Hill, one where my mother was for a long time, where there was virtually no outside space and no parking whatsoever. And you had to park in the road or find somewhere to park. But this with 50 spaces, I really can't see the objections. I understand people saying, no, oh, it's going to change our view. Well, they're not entitled to a view. And I'm sorry, it sounds rude, but in planning term, you haven't got an entitlement. You know, these are ordinary houses in the built-up area boundary. Yes, it will change their aspect because whatever you build does have an effect, and I fully accept that. But I think this is a good use of the land. Nursing homes are needed, and I think where you can and where they will fit in like this in the built-up area, it's an ideal site to develop, and they already own it. I really don't have a problem with it. I haven't heard any real strong enough arguments to think of a reason that I would support to refuse it. So I'm quite happy with it, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor McNaughton. Well, we've had a proposer, which is Councillor Coote. Do I have a seconder to the officer's recommendation? Councillor McNaughton. So the recommendation is subject to planning permission to be approved, subject to the conditions listed in Appendix A. Can I ask the legal officer to read out the names for if they're for or against or abstain, please?
Yes. Councillor Allen.
For.
Councillor Cartwright.
For.
Councillor Coote.
You're muted. No, I can hear you saying, I can see you. Yeah.
For. Thank you. Councillor DeBell.
For.
Councillor Eggleston.
Against.
Councillor McNaughton.
For.
Chairman.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
Against.
Councillor Pulfer.
Against.
And Councillor Sweatman.
For.
So that's 7 for and 3 against. Motion's carried.
Thank you. That has been approved. Thank you very much. Thank you for all those who participated in this. Now I shall be going to item 7, which is Little Torch down to the south of the district in Hurstpier Point. And the presentation is by Stuart Malcolm. Mr. Malcolm.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everybody. I'll just draw members' attention, first of all, if I may, to the update sheet. There's there's one update actually on the update sheet itself, and that's just making reference to a rather random typo that made its way into the report. We'll remove full recognition of that, please. And then the second update, this is one that came through after the update sheet had been sent around. We've had an additional representation this afternoon from one of the adjoining residents, which is setting out criticism of the recommendation before you today, but raises a number of issues, planning issues that are already set out in the report. So I won't go through those again because we feel that they're already addressed in the report before you. I'll just take you through the application then. So the application site is approximately 0.35 hectares in area, contains a large detached building at the southern end that is accessed off a long driveway, which comes directly from Sussex Road. So I've got 2 plans before you, which I'll talk about the one on the right a bit more in a moment, because this sets out the constraints and shows a bit more of the location context than the formally submitted location plan, which is on the left. So this is Sussex Road here, across the northern end, long driveway down to the large detached building at the southern end. So the site, which is known as Little Torch, is The former Torch Trust Holiday and Retreat Centre currently falls within the C2 use class, that class being residential institutions. It was used as a 17-bedroom holiday and retreat centre for people with sight loss and was operated by the Torch Trust, who vacated the building in May 2020. So the site is located just to the east of Hurstpier Point Village, and the plan on the right, just like I said a moment ago, just shows a bit more of the local context there. So just so members can get your bearings, this is the high street running west-east to the north, and there's the recreation ground here. This is South Avenue. So just to the east of that, we have our application site. So in terms of the planning policy and the site constraints themselves, the site falls wholly within the defined built-up area of Hurstpier Point and also the Hurstpier Point Conservation Area, which is this sort of hashed blue line, or blue lines, I should say. As members will have noted from the report, it's one of the key issues. There are 3 Grade 2 listed buildings in the immediate vicinity, these being Hampton Lodge to the west, and Tot Farm and Tot Barn just to the east of the main building itself. Most of the other neighbouring properties that adjoin the site are those that are located on Abberton Field, which is a small residential cul-de-sac to the immediate east. And you'll have noted also that to the immediate south of the site lies open countryside within the South Downs National Park, where there's a public footpath runs east-west just to the immediate south, and a further footpath running north-south here just to the south, and another one further to the south just off the plan view there. So the proposal before members seeks to change the use of the building to create a total of 10 C3 residential units. These units will be provided in the following mix. That's 3 1-bed units, 4 2-bed units, 2 3-bed units, including one house where the chapel is located, and 1 4/5-bed unit, which is one other house, which is where the manager's flat is on the western side. So all the other 8 units would be apartments or flats. I'll come on to the actual building changes in a moment when I show you the elevations, but in the grounds of the building, the access drive, that long access drive I referenced a moment ago, will be widened at the front. So widened here, not the access itself, so there's no actual works on Highways land as set out in the report, but it's really once you turn into the site, this access will be expanded to create that additional width, so two cars can pass, and that's probably a bit better illustrated in the photos of the site I'll show you towards the end of the presentation. So further down the drive, as you come south here, it's, because of the length of it, it's split here. So this is the access and the northern part of the access. Then come into the next part of the access where the herringbone parking is incorporated down the western side. But I should have said before that it gets widened to create that ability for 2 cars to pass, just like you have at the access point. And there's also to be the new refuse and recycling store located in relatively close proximity to the access with Sussex Road. So the parking will be result in 24 van allocated parking spaces. That includes 2 disabled spaces in close proximity to the building itself, and EV charging points, the details of which will be secured via a planning condition. So the concerns of the local residents on the use of the access is noted, but it is important to highlight that there is no objection from the Highways Authority on the access arrangements or from environmental protection officers on potential noise disturbance. The West Sussex Highways comments also make clear that it's expected that the proposed C3 use will result in less daily traffic movements than possible under what is the lawful C2 use. So this is the building as existing. These are the elevations just from clockwise top left, looking at the north, the east, the west and the south. You'll see that the building is 2-storey. And again, something that's better illustrated in the photos in a moment. The building is, well, it comprises, I should say, a mixture of tile hanging at first floor, brick elevations with some render, and then largely traditional clay tiles on the roof. So these are proposed elevations. The external changes you'll have seen to the building are quite limited, it's fair to say, and largely involve the replacement of fenestration with some additional openings created and others closed to facilitate that change to the residential use. The other main significant change involves the removal of the existing conservatory at the rear, and this is the proposed, so this is the proposed extension that replaces a conservatory and a couple of other sort of additions there, a bit of a mishmash at the back at the moment. So you'll have seen that the conservation officer considers that the development would constitute less than substantial harm at the lower end of the scale as a result. Let me just go back to the proposed a minute. As a result of the proposed additions at the rear, owing to the prominence of this new elevation in views of Top Farm as viewed from the south. The conservation officer has also concluded that driveway and parking alterations, as well as some of these alterations at the rear around the landscaping in particular, would result in less than substantial harm to the conservation area, with this being at the low to moderate end of the scale. Whilst the requirements for an amended landscaping scheme can be secured via condition and help mitigate the impact of the development to a degree, members must still give considerable importance and weight to the less than substantial harm that has been identified by the conservation officer. So as per para 196 of the MPPF, this harm should be weighed against the public benefits of the proposal. And in conducting that balancing exercise, planning officers consider that the provision of 10 residential units in this sustainable location will bring about economic and social benefits that will outweigh the less than substantial harm that has been identified. Just briefly show you the ground floor plan. This indicates the 4 flats. So the orientation here, sorry, just to get your bearings because it's different from the site plan I showed you a moment ago. Me jabbing the cursor up here, that's north in this direction, and west where the house is located, east here, and then south. So yeah, you've got the 4 flats in the middle at ground floor level, flanked by the 2 houses in the pink and the blue on either flank. And this is a situation that's largely replicated at first floor level too. So the proposal will provide a good standard of amenity for future residents, both in terms of meeting the minimum space standards, as well as the provision of external amenity space. That's because 8 of the units have private outdoor space, and all 10 units will have access to the outdoor communal area at the rear of the property. So I'll just finish off with a couple of photos that I've already partly referenced. These photos show the site entrance. This is the bit I was referencing a moment ago, which will be widened to allow a car to pull in and pass any potential car that's coming out. The photo to the bottom just shows a view looking west towards the high street. The next collection of photos show the driveway as existing. This is where the Herringbone car parking will be located, with Hampton Lodge beyond that tree screen to the west. And really the other views, this is one looking back up north, and really just try and give members an indication of the boundary treatments along the driveway there. So much of it on the eastern side, sorry, is close bordered fencing with more of a tree screen towards the northern end. But then on the Hampton Lodge side, it's largely a tree screen within the neighbouring property there, and they have an outbuilding part of the property further up on the northern half of the driveway there. Again, this was mentioned when I showed you the existing elevations a second ago. These really just show the building as existing, showing the north elevation. This is just the turning circle here, entrance to the building, just so you get your bearings. And this is the north facade that meets you when you first arrive. Then finally, we have a few photos at the rear where you can see the existing conservatory that will be removed. Some of those further additions are referenced a moment ago. No, like I said, I think I used the term mishmash. It is a bit of a mishmash, I think, at the back here. And then finally, just to give you a bit of idea of the context, this is a view from the existing veranda looking south, where you've got the South Downs National Park immediately beyond the southern boundary, and obviously the South Downs themselves further in the background there. So to summarising, I'll just bring it back to the site plan, as is normally done in these situations. The conclusion is that planning officers consider this a good quality scheme that meets the policy requirements of the development plan. On those main issues from the report that I've not specifically mentioned yet, the scheme is considered acceptable in principle. It will only have a minor impact on the South Downs National Park. Significant harm to neighbouring residential amenity cannot be demonstrated, and conditions will secure further details where necessary on matters such as ecology and sustainability. So overall, there are not considered to be any sustainable grounds to reject the development, and the application is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. Members may be aware we've lost yet another member from our committee. Unfortunately, Councillor Exton's got a bit of a family problem and he's had to leave the meeting. Now, I'm going to call the first speaker, is well, the only speaker, and that's Guy Dixon, who's in support of the... Hello, Mr. Dixon. No, you disappeared again. There you are.
I think I'm there. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Your 3 minutes will start when I can set my timer. Yes, you're ready.
Good afternoon, members. My client's proposal seeks the conversion of the former Torch Trust Holiday and Retreat Centre to 10 residential dwellings with associated external landscaping and the provision of car and cycle parking. The proposal will change the existing use from Class C2 to C3. The Torch Trust Centre provided a unique service to those with sight loss and ceased operating at the site at the end of 2019, and the site has been vacant since and subsequently sold. Given the building's age and restricted layout, it is not suitable for alternative modern-day C2 care uses. As such, the conversion to C3 use is considered to be an efficient use of land and acceptable in principle. The NPPF places sustainable development at the heart of the framework, seeks to make efficient use of land and boost housing supply. This proposal makes efficient use of a sustainably located vacant building within a built-up area boundary, and will provide well-designed and functional homes to help meet the housing needs of the local area. Furthermore, the external appearance of the existing building is retained with very limited changes. Accordingly, the proposals are in accordance with planning policy at the national, district and neighbourhood plan level. With regards to heritage considerations, it has been concluded that the site makes a minor contribution to the significance of the conservation area, and we consider that the proposals will result in a neutral impact. However, your conservation officer has explained her view that, in her view, the proposal will result in less than substantial harm at the low to moderate end of the scale. Taking this very worst case scenario, your planning officer has concluded that the public benefits of the proposal significantly outweigh any modest harm to the conservation area and the setting of the more distant listed buildings. Indeed, fundamentally, the focus of the proposal is the internal conversion of the existing building. We have noted the concerns from neighbours, but this scheme has been carefully drawn up to minimise any impact on them. It has to be recognised that the existing lawful use of the property has the potential to generate significant activity, and when analysing the scale of the building, this could actually be greater than that likely to be generated by the proposed dwellings. Overall, this proposal is the result of thorough design analysis of the existing building and surrounding context, as well as local planning policy. There will be no significant harm to the surrounding context, including neighbouring amenity, the South Downs National Park and heritage assets. It represents sustainable development, and accordingly, we very much hope members will be able to support the officer's recommendation and approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. That's well within your 3 minutes. Thank you. So could you switch your microphone and your, thank you. Do any members wish to debate this? No, I haven't seen nobody. Councillor Pulfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank Mr. Dixon for shedding a little more light on what's actually going on there. I'm assuming that this is a listed building, although I'm surprised that it is. And perhaps the officers could just give a little light to make sure that we are not contravening the Barnwell case. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, this is not a listed building. The listed buildings are outside this area. And I think that's correct, Mr. Malcolm.
Sorry, don't worry. I was just making sure the screen was up first. Yeah, thanks, Chairman. You're quite correct already there. So I think you've adequately answered the question in that the building itself is not listed. This is a constraints plan. It is within the setting of 3 listed buildings. To the west here, this is the red dots indicate the listed buildings to the west, and 2 to the east here and here. The blue lines indicate the conservation area, so it's within the conservation area and within the setting of listed buildings. And the heritage asset tests are set out in the report. It comes down to the para 196 test about weighing up the public benefits versus the less than substantial harm in this case. So, and the Barnwell case talks about making sure that irrespective of the degree of harm caused to a heritage asset, decision makers are giving that harm considerable importance and weight. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. Before you switch your microphone off, could you just confirm there are EV points going in here? I'm surprised Councillor Pulford didn't mention it.
Yes, the details of which are to be secured by condition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but I had actually noted that that had already been mentioned, and I was highly gratified. But then just to confirm, what is happening here, it's the refurbishment of this building, simply put, and that's changing it from C2 to C3, being public residential rather than the trust loss of site organisation.
Like we say, a very good use of brownfield site.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
Can we go back to the main screen, please? Thank you very much. Councillor Coote.
I was going to move as recommended, Chairman.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to second that? Councillor Phillips, you've got your hand up marginally before Councillor DeBell. So we've got a recommendation. It is recommended that subject to completion of a satisfactory Section 106 planning obligation securing the necessary financial contributions towards infrastructure set out in the assessment section below, plan of permission should be granted subject to conditions in Appendix A, and there's a contrary one, recommendation B, if all the necessary forms aren't signed and obligations by the 11th of June this year, it will be refused. Jen, could you call out everybody's names, please?
Yes, so for, against or abstain, Councillor Allen.
For.
Councillor Cartwright.
For.
Councillor Coote.
For.
Councillor DeBell.
For.
Councillor McNaughton.
For.
Chairman.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
For.
Councillor Pulfer.
For.
And Councillor Sweatman.
For.
And that's unanimous and carried.
Thank you, Jen. And we now move to the north of the district, and it's in other. Hang on a second, get my rib sheet. We have no recommendations for refusal, so we go to item 8, which is other matters. Anna, welcome to our committee for the first time. And can you set out a very brief overview of why we've got this in front of us, please?
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I will just on the update sheet, just for members' information, the map in the agenda only shows the position of the current house, and it doesn't show the associated area of land, i.e. the extent of Evergreen Farm, but I will show that in a moment in my presentation. And secondly, page 105, there's a description error. There was an amendment to the description on GR011378 FUL to amend the description to actually just refer to demolition of the timber bungalow and erection of a replacement farmhouse, and subsequent applications have been for the same thing, and that's explained in the officer's report. So I will present my presentation to members. Can members see? No?
No.
Apologies.
It's all right.
All right, I've got it.
Yeah, we can see that now. Thank you, Anna.
You can see that now. Jolly good. Right, so just to confirm that this application seeks the council's consent to discharge two elements of a planning obligation which dates from 2011, which was attached to the planning permission for the replacement, the last application for the replacement farmhouse on the site. And the planning obligation has two requirements, that being that the dwelling should be used solely by those using the land at Evergreen Farm for agricultural and/or equestrian uses, and two, that the land should be used solely or mainly for agriculture and/or equestrian only by a person who is in occupation of the dwelling. The wording of the legal agreement stems from the original consent in 2002, which was for the demolition of the bungalow and the new farmhouse, which was subsequently extended by further applications. And the effect of the removal of the approval of this application would be for a new permanent dwelling on the land, which would be subject to no occupancy restriction, the permission for which originally originated from a temporary timber building on the site. The application has been the subject of a detailed report by the council's agricultural consultant, and he has concluded that it is unlikely that the property will be used for an agricultural or equestrian enterprise in the near future, and that this obligation has outlived its usefulness. So this is the site of Evergreen Farm, and the access to the site that's used is via the entrance to the Standard National Trust House, and this is a gated access in this position here. There's also another access to the site which is disused at the moment off the West Hoathly Road, which is about here, and the current dwelling house is situated here, and the replacement dwelling house is located up on this higher land off the site of the original stand and tip in a location at position here. So this is the position here, and this is the existing property here. This is just for information, really. This slide just explains and shows the dwelling that has been permitted under the approval from 2011 and an associated range of garages. These photographs just indicate the access to the existing property, which is in behind these stables here, which is here on this photograph. You see the stables and then the existing timber building there. And just to illustrate the lie of the land, there's a substantial dip in the land. It runs away steeply to the north of the pasture area, and it also includes this woodland area in the distance on the eastern side of the site. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Sweatman, this is your part of the world. Do you wish to say anything on this site?
Yes, indeed it is, Chairman. Thank you very much. And thank you, Anna, for a lovely presentation there. Basically, I've moved as recommended, Chairman, because I obviously agree with the agricultural consultant. I think we have to take his expertise into account on this one and look at the land. It's having worked on a farm for many years myself, it's not really suitable for grazing by the looks of things. So, yes, I'll move this as recommended.
Okay, Councillor de Bell, do you wish to second this as your fellow East Grinstead
I fully concur with my colleague and I would second that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor. Oh, Councillor Coote, did you want to say anything, or were you just going to?
No, Chairman, I was going to second it.
Okay, it's good to get the local members to do the honours. Jen, could you read? Oh, the recommendation is that the Section 106 planning obligation is discharged.
Thank you. So 4 against or abstain. Councillor Allen.
4.
Councillor Cartwright.
4.
Councillor Coote.
4.
Councillor de Bell.
4.
Councillor McNaughton.
4.
Chairman.
4.
Councillor Phillips.
4.
Councillor Pulfer.
4.
And Councillor Sweatman.
Now you're
Sorry,
muted.
4.
Okay.
4. Did you get that? Sorry.
You did.
Yes,
You did.
thank you.
Sorry.
That's unanimous and carried.
All right, thank you, Jen. Item 9 on the agenda is questions pursuant to Rule 10.2. I do not have any. I think that's about it now. And sorry, the rustling of the paper. Yeah, that's it. I'd like to close the meeting. Before we do close the meeting, can I thank all members? Because in the last couple of months, we've had some really difficult planning applications to deal with, which has really tested everybody's debating powers. And I did like to reiterate, having sitting on other planning committees outside of the Mid-Sussex, we are truly a very, very good committee. So thank you very much. And I close the meeting at 17:46. Can you just remain in place till the live streaming is finished, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman.